Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of Anime Brain Freeze. We are your magical wandering volleyball hosts.
I am John.
And I'm CC. And when there's just too much cool anime to watch, we've got you covered. Today, John and I will part ways again for a while, as each of us reviews a show the other has not seen. First, John will follow the trail of the traveling sorceress Elaina and detail her many adventures in the world of Wandering Witch. After that, I will finally return to the volleyball court and cheer for our high-flying friends from Haikyu, attempting to climb to the top of sports anime. Grab your wands, grab your balls, unless you are not alone, and definitely don't pause the pod. We'll be right back.
I get the picture. They try to hit you. They try to kick you down and out.
Yeah, I kinda decided to check out this year's show, Wandering Witch. In Japanese title was Majo no Tabi Tabi, The Journey of Elaina. It's all about this girl named Elaina, and she's fascinated by the stories of Nikkei, a witch who traveled around the world, and she aspires to take the same course. Elena's determination of studying books and magic leads to her becoming the youngest apprentice witch to pass the sorcery exam. However, when Elaina attempts to receive training in order to become a full-fledged witch, she is rejected due to her extraordinary talents, until she finds Fran, the Stardust Witch, whom accepts her. After earning her title, the Ashen Witch, Elaina begins her exploration around the world, visiting and facing all kinds of people and places. I kind of like how this show, it does something that you don't really see a whole lot of, where I feel like you can watch certain episodes like out of order. Like, obviously you have to, I feel like it's necessary to watch the episodes where you get to see the main characters. That probably goes without saying, because then later on you probably be a little confused. But all of the other stuff in between is just kind of like these journeys to different places that Elaina goes. And it doesn't really seem like it follows a set timeline, which, as far as it goes narratively.
So it's like these snapshots from her life or her learning about witchcraft and everything.
Yeah, pretty much. The show's also really pretty. We talked about the studio C2C, which stands for Challenge to Challenge.
Wow.
Back when we reviewed Harukana Receive, and that was sort of also a nice sort of easygoing summer vacation feeling show that I think we both enjoyed.
We did. And I mean, I watched the first episode of Wandering Witch. That looked better than Harukana Receive.
Yeah, they definitely stepped their game up a bit, and by a bit I mean a lot. Mm-hmm. So Wandering Witch is based on a light novel series. Wait, hold on.
Half out the door already?
Yeah. But, it's kind of nice to have a light novel series that's not an isekai for once. So the books were originally written by Jogi Shiraishi. And it's a little bit of an interesting story behind it, because Shiraishi was a little disappointed that he would not get his book published. But through the magic of the internet, he found he could self-publish on the Kindle service in 2014. And the books kind of got big from there. And he got in talks with GA Bunko, and they started getting a physical release in April 2016. Volumes 16 and 17 are due out this year in March and July, respectively. And I believe the first 5 volumes are, well, at least the first 3 volumes are out over here, and 4 and 5 are slated to be released. 4 might already be out. 5 is coming soon, I believe. So, yeah, it's nice to see that. Had a nice little up-and-coming story where he wasn't sure he'd get his story published, and then, hey, turns out everything worked out. He also cited that the influence for a lot of the flora and fauna came from him reading a lot of National Geographic, in that more than anything else he wanted to focus on the world and setting before the characters. And considering the characters do kind of travel to different places, different towns, different parts of the world. Yeah, I could get that vibe from it.
Yeah, I mean, if you make the story about a journey, the places should be maybe as interesting as the characters who are going on that journey. So, I mean, I can see that approach. It's just, I hope the characters don't, like, fall behind.
Yeah, I never really get the feeling that they do, but this is also only how many episodes was it? This was also only 12 episodes out of a book series that is very, very well established and very in there. So I might as well say up front now, they did definitely tease something of a second season. It's a little weird the way they did it, but we'll kind of get around to that. So Elaina is a very headstrong girl, let's say. She, like we said in the preamble, wants to become a traveling witch, and she teaches herself magic a little too well. And nobody wants to take her on as an apprentice because she's very, I'm so good at magic. She's got that sort of that air about herself going on.
She knows what she can do, and she lets everybody know.
Yes.
One of my favorite quotes I've heard in recent time is, "Be humble, but let motherfuckers know she ain't got the humble part down." So she needs to learn about that.
And humbled she kind of gets when she goes to learn from the aforementioned Stardust Witch Fran. And when she puts her to the test, she gives her Fran gives Elaina a nice big slice of that there humble pie, and it doesn't taste too good. It's really sort of crazy how much Fran overwhelms her, but it's this incredible action set piece where the two of them are having a big sorcery battle. Not to take from another currently airing series. But it's crazy. And when Elaina learns, hey, I guess I need to know the limits of what I can do a little bit better. She goes home to her mother and says, Fran taught me what I didn't know, and I think I understand what I can and can't do a little bit better. And her mother says to her a few things like, hey, you need to come home and visit every so often. Tell us about,
she also says that they were in on it, which was, one thing.
Does she tell her directly? I don't believe she did.
But we learned that she was. Yeah. Like, we learned that her parents were in on, like, this kind of pseudo-torture thing, which was the one thing that kind of put me off on during the premiere, where it's like, what the fuck? You are bad parents. I don't know. This seems really horrible.
You can't give your kid the tough love they need. Maybe you need a little helping hand.
I guess, but holy shit.
But yeah, I don't believe they ever out and say that to her. But the other thing that her mother says is, just remember that, you're no more special than anyone else. Just keep that humbleness. And boy, does she not take that lesson to heart. Oh, boy.
She doesn't. Okay.
Yeah, she kind of goes for, I don't feel like she super oversteps her boundaries, but she can never get out of her own head that she is, some kind of hotness. I mean, she constantly introduces herself as being like, oh, who's that beautiful young witch that you turn around and take a second glance at? Why, it's me, of course. And it's like, okay, girl.
Right. That's some real strong Karin from Street Fighter energy.
Yeah, bit! She goes off. And she stops at this one town in the land, basically this town that is dedicated to, like, magery and sorcery and stuff, as it were. It's situated in this country of mages. And she is kicked out of every inn she tries to visit because she notices that this brooch that identifies her as a mage is missing, because she finds out later on that she had this encounter with this girl named Saya, and Saya kind of nicked the brooch from her, and it's kind of this attempt to get her to stick around. And because Saya's, kind of lonely, which, that's unfortunate. But Elaina manages to get it back from her and says, hey, I guess I'll stick around and try and help teach you some magic and whatnot. And it turns out that, Saya's not bad at it either. And that leads to Saya very strongly wanting to follow in Elena's footsteps, to the point that she goes and trains under this other witch, Sheila, who turns out is an old friend of Fran's, and she ends up getting the same kind of outfit. She gets a similar title, and it's just like this very, very, very strong, you might say, very lesbian energy.
Ah, okay. I was about to ask, is there some Yuri power in there?
Oh, yes. Saya's story sort of turns into, I want to make Elaina my wife.
Oh, wow, that escalated quickly.
And, doesn't happen in the scope of this series. Darn. But there's certainly more story after this series. There's one episode that's kind of like two one-off stories. They split the episode in half, where there's this girl who is in this field of flowers, and she's super captivated by them. And it turns out, and this girl asks her, hey, you should bring some of these flowers to town for me. Sure, okay. Turns out these are magical flowers, and they kind of bewitch those who get their hands on them. So before she can walk into town, the town guards are like, yo, you can't bring those in here. They're actually really dangerous. And she runs across the brother, that's it, the brother of this girl in town. And, when she tells the brother where this girl is, it becomes this sort of very unfortunate story about, well, I guess she's stuck out there and she's never coming back, and we can't go get her because we'll be enthralled by the power of these flowers. And there's really nothing she can do about it, which brings me to something weird about this story. It starts off very, very whimsical, right?
Yeah, that's what it sounded like, especially the thing you just mentioned with, the I don't know, quote-unquote romance side plot, I guess.
Yeah.
And, that relationship and everything, it sounds very, I don't know, not goofy, but, lighthearted.
This show has some fucking mood swings, though.
Okay.
Hard mood swings.
I mean, the first episode could have been a giveaway in that sense, because the second half of the first episode gets pretty dark in a way, even though it's all kind of an act by friend. But still, it's, you can see that story might go to darker places, and apparently did.
Yeah, in the second half of that episode, Elaina encounters this mage, Emil, who's been collecting happiness, quite literally using magic to collect happiness in a bottle for this girl that he's in love with. And this girl, Nino, is kind of the family's slave girl, and she's very depressed and abused. And they kind of parallel it to this story from within the world where this man went off to find, a bit of happiness to bring home to his sick wife. And boy, that story doesn't end well either. Yeah, it's really depressing, actually. Especially, and then we keep going further down the depression hole, because in the next episode, Elaina arrives in this abandoned kingdom, and all her stuff is this amnesiac princess, Mira Rose. Turns out she's an amnesiac because before she lost her memories, she kind of erased them herself. Because she turned her father into a monster, and that monster slayed everyone in the kingdom. So we get these two episodes back to back, and it's like, man, is this show just going to be nothing but darkness? And we sort of start to claw it back a little bit, where Elaina arrives at the Royal Magic Academy and finds this book about her mentor, about Fran, and we sort of get this backstory between Fran and Sheila, in that episode and some later episodes. And Fran and Sheila kind of get along about as well as oil and water back from their youth. And their mentor is Nikkei, so that that definitely fuels Elena's desire to keep continuing in her footsteps. There's a lot more interesting one-off stories. I don't feel like I want to like read off everything else that happens because there's some other nicer stuff in there. Like I guess the one other thing I'll say is there's a grape throwing festival where Elaina gets pulled into stomping on grapes to help make wine. And it's kind of funny. So there's that. There's some levity to this story. It's not all the bad stuff, but I feel like they struck a pretty good balance between the horribly depressing stuff and the more lighthearted, hey, this is a journey about learning about the world around you sort of stuff.
I guess that's good. That's always like a very difficult balancing act when you have a series that deals with these wildly different tones. Because if you go too dark and then too lighthearted, it feels kind of disjointed and clash, and those episodes clash with each other. So, especially if you binge a show like that, I would say. And do you feel like it went too far in either direction, like from one episode to next, where it's like, oh god, and then like, wow, this is too jolly now that I'm still not over the previous episode, or the other way around?
I don't feel like it gets like too overly jolly compared to some of the other stuff that's in there. I mean, obviously you still have to maintain some of the whimsy of this magical world. And I feel like, it's weird to say, I feel like it helps kind of ground the story that it has. You have both sides. You have, your little bits of everyday happiness along with your bits of, everyday not so happiness. Because, everybody goes through their shit in their lives. And I feel like, we get to see a slice of that, with the personal stories we get, as well as, there's some stories about the towns and places as a whole that the characters travel to. So I do still think that those episodes are, if you're not in a particularly good mood that day, or even if you are in a good mood, it might hit you harder than some others. I believe there was one episode in particular that had a disclaimer up front that said, "Hey, just to let you know, this one has some actual shit in it." Shiraishi was definitely trying to hit the whole emotional spectrum in this story, and definitely feel like he achieved that pretty strongly. And the art direction, the animation in the show is incredible from top to bottom. Like, to say the show is probably one of C2C's best works to date, I don't think is an understatement. And the director, Toshiyuki Kubooka, he had previously directed Haruka Receive and did some other stuff like Batman Gotham Knight, the Berserk movies, which I believe you would watch those, right? What was your thoughts on those as far as production?
I like the Berserk movies better than the new Berserk series.
Well, that's a low bar.
Yeah, I know, and that's all I'm gonna say, because that also has like a lot of bad CG. Like those movies that have a lot of bad CG in it. There are some nice hand-drawn animations too, but it's. Some of the stuff that happens in the last movie is like just gets severely, I don't know, the blows of that get severely lessened by how goofy the CG looks in certain parts. So it's like you got the worst thing that is kind of happening in Berserk right here, and then you got these weird goofy CG monsters, and it's like yeah, and Batman Gotham Knight was fun. That was like a compilation, like the Animatrix, where it's like different studios doing different little Batman stories. My favorite segment was probably the one from Madhouse, or Batman Fights Against Deadshot. That was directed by Yoshiaki Kawajiri, so that was really cool. I don't know which segment your guy was responsible for.
Looks like he did Working Through Pain, the fifth part.
Okay, that sounds familiar. Might be the Killer Croc episode. I'm not sure. I haven't watched Gotham Knight in ages, so I kind of want to revisit that. But yeah, that was a fun compilation. Probably not as good, in general as the Animatrix, less in terms of level, like consistency and everything. But there were some cool parts in there. I don't remember if Working Through the Pain was one of the better ones or not. But I'll check it. Oh no, that might be the one with young Bruce Wayne who learns to fight. It goes on a training, on his training journey, which would kind of fit with Elaina taking a witch's journey. So I don't know.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, it might be that one. Yeah.
But yeah. I feel like the writing in this show pretty good too. Worked on by Kazuyuki Fudeyasu, who believe we've mentioned a couple times. Worked on JoJo's that time. I'm going to see if I get this name right because I don't remember it off the top of my head. That time I got reincarnated as a slime, that's what it is, right?
Yes. Or just call it Slime Time or Tensura. That works.
Yeah, I mean, I wrote it in my notes as Slime Time Isekai, but I couldn't remember the full name.
That's fine.
Worked on a couple of Zoid shows, Black Clover, a couple of the Hajime no Ippos. One of my personal favorites, Bento.
Mm-hmm.
Season 2 win.
Never, probably, sadly.
Yeah. But yeah, there's even this really neat interview with Shiraishi about his thoughts on creating Wandering Witch and the adaptation of the show. I'm going to give that to CC so we can put it in the show liner notes.
Yay.
Sometimes I do these things. Other times I just forget completely.
Hey, listen, I don't know who reads these links anyway, so...
But yeah, this show was much like the show I'm going to be talking about next time around. Was kind of it was a surprise bit of fun. I went into it, expecting I'd probably watch 1 or 2 episodes, but I got through with this leg of Elena's journey. We got a tease for another season. No word on whether or not it's actually coming anytime soon. But yeah, this is a very pretty show with some fun characters, some emotional highs and some emotional lows.
Yeah, it sounds like it's not like it's a super shallow series or anything, or it's just hey, journey, new places, everything. But there are some actual gripping character stories in there, and sad tales as well.
Yeah, and, there is some substance to it.
Yeah, some substance, and like you said, it's a very pretty show. Just judging from the first episode, which is all I've seen of the show, I might have watched the entire series, but I was so busy catching up to all the stuff we are reviewing this season that and next season that I couldn't make time for Wandering Witch. But what I saw in the first episode looked really good and interesting, and so I'm glad to hear that it continued on that path.
Yeah, I was glad it was able to maintain its momentum, both with the characters and with the animation quality. They never really let up on this run, so you like to see that. You don't like to see your first episode looks really good and then it immediately falls off. I don't remember what show it was we talked about a couple of seasons ago, but there was a show that had a violent drop off after.
I know which one episode. You mean. What was it? The magic something? Magic
yeah.
Yeah. I forgot its name, but that's also apparently really bad because of a lot of other reasons.
Yeah, I read some of those too.
I forgot its name, rightfully so, probably. But yeah.
Lost to the annals of time, much like X-Arm will be after this season. Hey-oh!
Or maybe it will live in infamy, who knows?
Just like Hando Shakers.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, no, Wandering Witch was a really fun time. Check it out. It's on Funimation, Hulu, Anime Lab, and Wakanim for those of you outside of the United States. Yeah, it's a fun and interesting show with a lot of developments to it that I think is worth checking out.
Wait, what is this? CC's reviewing a sports anime? Nobody saw this coming!
Get out of here. Get out of here right now.
To be fair, it's not a new one. We are returning to one of my favorite sports anime of all time, and that is Haikyu. And I have already reviewed seasons 1, 2, 3 for our site all at once, and now we have the 4th season. And yeah, I didn't really get to talk in detail about some of the more spoilery stuff from the later episodes of the first 3 seasons, so basically from the 3rd season. So I guess I will do a quick recap and and talk about some of my favorite moments first. I think because I revisited some of season 2 and all of season 3 before starting to watch both course of the 4th season. And again, since this is a continued series review, full spoilers for all seasons of Haikyu, everyone. Good? We're good.
Oh no, I need to stop the podcast and go catch up right now.
Good luck with that. That's a lot of episodes at this point. But yeah, Haikyu is, of course, from the setup, a pretty standard sports anime. You got our main 2 protagonists, Hinata and Kageyama, who are basically opposing characters in a way, not as standard as we got in other shows, maybe like in another kind of sports anime this season that is currently airing right now, with a also very hot and cold duo, but even more so, more living up to that name. Hinata and Kageyama are pretty much, they are both very aggressive people, only in a different way. Hinata is very jolly, jumpy, happy person, very energetic, and Kageyama is also energetic, but he's also very stern and very angry a lot of times. So they are kind of opposed. One is a setter in the game of volleyball, one is a spiker. They have met as children in school before, and Kageyama didn't leave a good impression on Hinata, and then as it happens, they suddenly end up at the same school and in the same volleyball team, and a rivalship develops that, of course, turns into a friendship. We meet a lot of different new teammates, each one better than the next one, and they form a stronger team, and they kind of have this underdog position. Karosuno is their name. And then, they have been this super strong team a couple of years ago, quite a lot of years ago, but then they have fallen from grace. They're a team fallen from grace. And they're trying to get back to the top. We'll get to that. But yeah, that's what happens, basically.
Huh. To the top, you say.
To the top, I say. And that's basically all of seasons 1, 2, 3. Them becoming a stronger team. Hinata and Kageyama having this unlikely combination play that none of them thought they could make happen. Hinata is so trusts Kageyama without any doubt that he will deliver the ball to him, so he can basically play the ball with his eyes closed in the very beginning, and manages to do like this crazy quick attack that completely surprises the opposing team, or a lot of the opposing teams. And that's kind of the new centerpiece for the success of Karasuno. And then we develop from there, and you get a lot of matches and several tournaments actually. And all of that culminates in season 3, where they are playing the regional champion several years in a row, Shira Torizawa, who are this super powerhouse school with like this one incredibly gifted, super big, large, tall, massive, ultra big, muscular, gargantuan dude. Well, his name is Ushijima, and if you translate that's I think that's Cow or Bull Mountain or something like that. I'm not sure. I haven't seen him or translated the kanjis of his name, so maybe Ushi stands for something different. I think he's associated in terms of visual metaphors with an eagle, while our team is the crows, the birds that are very smart but keep around at the garbage dump, and he's the guy who soars above the tall mountain, and that's the goal. That's where Karasuno needs to go. So yeah, and that's basically all of the 3rd season. It's like the match against that powerhouse school, and it's a sight to behold. And the first episode of season 3 was already like this prime example of setting the atmosphere and anticipation for an important match. I remember sitting there, even watching it a second time through, and just feeling the goosebumps crawling up my arms, where it was like, holy shit, something big is gonna happen and all that shit. And you see the players arrive and, you know, everyone, and then Ushijima like walks on the court, and you're like, holy fucking shit, this is gonna be wild. And it is. And he had such a great build up for a stage boss character, basically, if this was a video game. And he delivers on it, completely dominating Karasuno in the first set. It's like, he's like this threatening, nigh unstoppable force. And I talked about this before, this is hampered a bit by the series trying to be more realistic than some other sports anime. I mentioned this when I reviewed Ahiru no Sora already. Like, the score difference never gets too big, because Shira Torizawa makes some mistakes and Karasuno gets some lucky shots in, which is what would probably happen in a real-life game as well. But a few single scenes aside, they mostly show Shira Torizawa completely wiping the floor with Karasuno, for a while at least. So there's a bit of a disconnect when the scoreboard at the end shows 25-16. Where did those 16 points come from? It's like, it's kind of weird. It's like, yeah, okay, it makes sense in the real world, but this is anime, so just let them lose like with 0 points or something, or 1 point, and I would have been completely fine. So I don't know, a bit of misguided realism here, wrongly applied, but it's fine. I'd rather they went more shonen anime in that regard and let them be completely annihilated, at least in the first set. But yeah, the hype was strong regardless. Like, the comebacks would have been more satisfying, but they were satisfying enough anyway, even with that in the back of your head. And there are a bunch of matches in this show that could have been applied to, but that is where it stuck out the most to me. That's why I wrote it down again, because there was such like this giant piece of dominating force on the other side's team with Ushijima, who's like this monster. But yeah, like I said, regardless, the last 2 matches in the main tournament from season 2 and season 3, of course, were pure nail-biters with great emotional moments and incredible animation. I especially loved how some of the side characters got the spotlight for clutch situations, one of my favorites being Tsukushima, who always came across as kind of a not super motivated, snarky guy with a somewhat shit personality. That's funny, but, you know, it's like, why is this guy even playing volleyball, and why is he such an asshole sometimes? And then he finally gets this big spotlight in season 3. We learn what formed his current attitude towards volleyball, which is a very personal story that relates to his brother. And then we get this great moment where, with the help of his new friends in Karasuno, Tsukishima manages to do this big turnaround move and moment and celebrates his newfound passion for the sport and his evolution as a player and character with this guttural, hype as fuck scream. And when I first watched that, my fists were shaking just like his, and I was screaming as well. It was a fantastic moment, like one of the best moments in this series, bar none. And yeah, the music and everything, at the reaction of his teammates, and good God, that's how you do a hype sports anime. Holy shit. So yeah, season 1 to 3 were great. Of course, Karasuno wins. Like I said, spoilers. They beat Shira Torizawa, and everyone is looking. It's like, what? How could that happen? That's impossible. Karasuno, they're not a strong team anymore. They have fallen from grace. What's happening? How could they have beat Shira Torizawa? So all the eyes are on them now. And yeah, I loved it. Like I said, all 3 seasons were great. A bunch of colorful, well-written characters, fantastic animation by Production IG, fantastic matches, and everything culminates with our Crow underdog team beating the unmatched powerhouse in the form of Shira Torizawa in the 3rd season. That is like this one giant 10-episode long match. So, how are you gonna literally top that?
Get out of here.
Nationals, baby! So yeah, that's where we're going with the 4th season. And the 4th season is named Haikyu to the top. That, you know, now you know why I am doing all the top parts here. But yeah, before that, also, just as an info, because you might accidentally skip those, there is like this 2-part special that is also available on all the streaming services where Haikyu is available as a whole. and the specials are called Earth vs. Air and The Ball's Path, which highlight 2 matches of Karasuno's destined rivals, Nekoma. And those are not necessary, but they give some interesting character background to some of the more interesting opponents and teams in the show. And that also comes very much into play in this 4th season. So I would definitely recommend you watching those, just, as a refresher on that team as well, because that's kind of important. But yeah, in January last year, we got the first 13 episodes of Haikyu to the top, and in October last year, the second batch of 12 episodes, so 25 as a whole. And I don't know exactly what to call this, because it says Haikyu TV4 next to the first batch, and then TV5 next to the second batch. So is it actually season 4 and 5, or is To the Top one singular season 4 with 2 cores? I don't know. But since they didn't change the name after the first batch, I consider the entirety of To the Top Haikyu's 4th season, for now anyway. We'll see what they name the next iteration, whenever that happens. We have a new director and chief animation director. The directing chair went from Susumu Mitsunaka, who was there since season 1, to Masako Sato, who also directed Animal Yell and some episodes of the earlier Haikyu seasons. He also did some of the storyboards there. And the chief animation director position switched from Takahiro Chiba and Yuko Yahiro to Yu Kobayashi, who did key animation for the earlier seasons and also stuff like Toradora, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, Run with the Wind, and other shows. The character designs by Takahiro Kishida have been changed a bit to look more like how they do in the manga. They were more loosely adapted in the previous 3 seasons. Now they look much more akin to what you expect when you expect an anime adaptation from the manga. But aside from that, To the Top feels like it never went away. Like Haikyu was always there. So I heard somewhere, or I read somewhere, that the production was troubled. I tried to look it up. I couldn't find anything. And in my opinion, it's not super noticeable, especially not in the later episodes. In the beginning, the rhythm is a bit off. The visual gags are not executed quick enough. And some of the pauses feel too long and awkward. It feels like they first, like the new team first had to find its groove a bit, maybe. But later on, especially in the second core, it's like, yeah, Haikyu is back. Here it is. Here it is. Did you think it wouldn't come back? It's like, all right, okay, they got this figured out. So I was very glad when I realized that. The soundtrack is great as ever. The team there hasn't changed. It's done by Yuki Hayashi, the guy who makes My Hero Academia's great moments shine with his terrific mix of rock and orchestral score. He is helped by Asami Tachibana, who apparently stepped out for the second season but has rejoined the crew since season 3. And she has already worked on the soundtrack together with Hayashi on Gundam Build Fighters Try. Worked together with Sawano and some other composers for the music on Seraph of the End, and composed the score for Darling in the Franxx. And hey, say about that show what you will, like that it's shit, because that's the truth, but the soundtrack was great. And yeah, the soundtrack in To the Top is still this great Hayashi signature style mix of banging hype rock tracks mixed with uplifting orchestral hymns. And music actually plays a big part in the spotlight match of this season, and I'll get to that later. So, where are we left with Karasuno after they won against Shiratorizawa? Well, we immediately start off the season with Kageyama getting invited to a national training camp that is picking out possible players for the Under-19 Olympics. And because he doesn't want to be left behind, Hinata sneaks into a training camp for first years in the Miyagi Prefecture, held by Shiratorizawa, promptly being relegated to the role of ball boy, but determined to show that his worth is not dependent on Kageyama. And the coach of Shiratorizawa, Washijo Sensei, you get the feeling that he sees something of himself in Hinata. He seems kind of angry with him, like that he interrupted the training and he's like the stern old grumpy coach. And he's voiced by Ryusei Nakao, the guy who voiced Freezer. So that's a well-known voice. And you know that guy can get angry. And he does. And he can like ooze a certain aura. Where it's like, don't get in that guy's way. It's a bad idea. And he does that when Hinata interrupts his training camp and like basically sneaks himself in there. Coach Washijo lets Hinata stay, but like I said, relegates him to ball boy. But you get the feeling that he has like maybe a kinship with him. He sees something in him that started maybe with the match they had in the tournament. And yeah, so he lets him stay to witness the training anyway, even though he's super hard on him. Later, we learn that he recognizes the hunger to reach for the top in Hinata because he had the same hunger as a player, because they're both very small. Hinata's a very small stature, which is one of the key plot points, where it's like he's very small, so he's not really made for the game of volleyball, really, but he can jump super high. And there was like the signature player in Karasuno's most successful years called the Little Giant. And that's the big role model. That is the person Hinata aspires to. That's what he wants to reach. That's what he wants to be. So that's also why he went to Karasuno. And that's basically it. And this hunger, this drive, is the same drive that Coach Washijo felt or experienced or had when he was a young volleyball player. So he's like, hey, okay, I can see where Hinata is coming from. He has potential. I want to nurture that potential, but I want to make him fight hard for it. So yeah, that's like the first couple of episodes of this season, where it's like, okay, Hinata gets some tough love from the opposing coach, but he actually benefits from being the ball boy. He's able to observe top players very closely from a different position than the field, and that enables him to adapt to new techniques like the split step and improve as a receiver, which was not really his forte. His forte will always be spiking, but since he was always mostly acting on instinct, this teaches him to actually use his brain and transform said instincts into intuition. So those are some really valuable lessons, and that helps him evolve as a player a lot. You need to watch the ball. You always have to keep your eyes open when you are the ball boy. Otherwise, one of them volleyballs might hit you right in the dick. A painful experience Hinata definitely gets to have.
I was about to say, this sounds like the this character's voice of experience.
Oh yeah. That definitely happens, and he learned a valuable but painful lesson that day. I like these small training arcs between the tense matches. It's a nice breather, and it's fun to see our main characters interact with players from other teams in a not serious life or death match situation. It's also important for Hinata and Kageyama to learn to not rely only on their teamwork, like on their two-man team, but also improve their individual skills, so they can be of more use to the team as a whole if their combination isn't available. There is a rotation in volleyball, so they can't always play together the way they want to, so they also need to develop skills that can compensate for that. So these training episodes teach them that. And Hinata makes a couple of new friends. He actually manages to help another player who can't find his groove because he is not relaxed, and those are just good feels all around, which is a lot of Haikyu. A lot of Haikyu is just, hey, you got a bad time? Watch that show, you'll feel really good afterwards. So that happens a lot in these first couple of episodes. And then we have like small training match against Date Tech before the spring tournament, which was one of the more important teams in the previous seasons. Who have like this very strong defense, very capable defensive players. And there are some developments in that as well. Kageyama finally realizes something about his sets, his tosses. Like, he was so busy making his tosses suit the other players that he didn't realize he should also force the other players to get better and adapt to the best he can do. And yeah, that's pretty great. That's pretty important. And that also involves him as a player. And then we have like this great dynamic between Hinata and Aone. Aone is like this super imposing, very quiet, but on the inside very friendly defender from Date Tech. And there's just this sweet moment after the training match against Date Tech where Aone has this respect for Hinata because he respects Hinata's skill. Same for Hinata when it comes to Aone. So they just stand in front of each other and bow, which is not Hinata's thing usually. He's a very fast talker, but Aone is not, so that's what they do, because, they respect each other. And it's really nice, and it's cute in a way, and I like it a lot. And the show is, Haikyu in general is full of these small cute moments that are very heartwarming. And then pretty much what's coming next, or what's up next after that, is the big thing that has been kind of teased and expected when we get into this fourth season. That's the big spring tournament, which is like this big national tournament that the best teams from all over Japan are gonna play in. And before that, we get like the team hanging out in random constellations and doing non-volleyball related stuff. Episode, or partly episode. And I also like that a lot, where it's like, hey, we see those characters out of their element and see what they do besides volleyball. I find that always refreshing and nice. And then we have like this cute moment where their coach Ukai made a nice video, basically edited together to make the team remember some of their best moments from the previous games, to hype them up. It's also very cute. Like just highlighting a few of the moments in Haikyu that made me smile from ear to ear. And yeah, it's really cute, and it's really nice, and it's really fun. And yeah, just again, good feels all around. And then it's time for the spring tournament. That's the big thing that happens next. And we get like all the teams like marching onto the court and basically representing their district and everything. And we get like this nice marching band rendition of the OP of the show, for the introduction of the teams during the opening ceremony of the tournament.
Cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. And it gets cooler, believe me. And then, we have all the different teams. We see the return of some characters from previous training arcs and specials, and also some completely new ones. So it's like, oh, this is, interesting character. Oh, new one. And the character designs in Haikyu are always super striking. One example here is Bokto from Fukurodani Academy. He is super fun because he doesn't work without a sufficient hype level, aka enough people watching him. Even if they're just imaginary. And his teammates constantly have to find ways to get him out of his periods of depression when not enough people are watching him. And it's fantastic. He's a fantastic character and super fun. And yeah, it's really great. A new character that appears is basically Hinata's doppelganger, aka Hoshiyumi, who is like the small dude with silver hair from Kamomedai High, who also jumps high and does crazy spikes just like Hinata. And since he seems to be equally good or even better than Hinata, he's automatically a contender for the title of Little Giant, which Hinata always aspired to and wants to have. So they're automatic rivals. It's like their match is going to be wild, and it's going to be a spiking duel, I bet. So I'm looking forward to that. That hasn't happened yet, but it's gonna. And yeah, speaking of character designs being sharp, a lot of character designs in Haikyu are animal-inspired, since almost all the schools are named after animals in this show. Some characters in Karasuno get like these crow-ish eyes, also black jerseys, and the whole flying thing Hinata has going on. Fukurodani's Bokto is an owl. Some players from Nekoma are obviously designed after cats, and Hoshiyumi is based on a seagull. If you look at his hair and eyes, it's a fun idea. And the new commercial break eye catchers lean into that as well. Crows, owls, cats, foxes, they're all there. They're all very cute. It's a nice idea. And like I said, it makes the character designs really striking. And yeah, the first signature match of this spotlight match of this tournament starts in the last episode of the first core, and it's against Inarizaki. So the top foxes, I guess, and their deadly combination of the Mia twins. And yeah, that match has a really interesting component to it. Inarizaki have weaponized their cheer squad. Naturally, they support their the cheer squad supports their team with cheers and an actual school band that plays a theme for them. But the fans also boo the opposing team and try to throw off their playing rhythm with drums, which is not nice or sportsmanlike at all, but it's pretty effective, and it kind of fits the trickster fox theme of that school. You know, that's the thing one says about foxes in Japan. It's like, hey, they always got something up their sleeves. They're always kind of tricky. They're They don't maybe always play fair. And then Karasuno mobilizes their own cheer squad in the form of Tanaka's sister and her buddies, hitting them taiko drums hard. It's a cheer battle, bitch!
God
I
damn.
love it. Yeah, it's hype as fuck. And yeah, the motto of Inarizaki is, we don't need the memories. It's like this, there's like this giant banner next to where the cheer squad is standing, and Karasuno has one that says fly on it. But yeah, Inarizaki's banner says, we don't need the memories. So I guess paraphrasing, we can always be better than we were yesterday. Always look forward, never look back. And that's how they play. And yeah, that match is fantastic. There's a lot of shit going on, a lot of different strategies, a lot of different plays in a different way. There's a Tanaka-focused episode. Yay! That's one of my favorite characters. He has been from the get-go. He's like this hype man. He is super fun, super funny. He's like kind of the heart of a team in certain parts. He can always get people like out of a funk and everything. He's really cool. And his sister is great and everything. So yeah, when he finally finds his groove and actually gets to score the first set against Inarizaki, it's super satisfying. I was so happy for him. Nothing will probably beat Tsukishima's big breakthrough moment from season 3 for me anytime soon, but the one-man hype squad sure delivered in this 4th season. As a Tanaka fanboy, this season has been really good to me. That's all I can say. So I was really happy that I got that out of this. But yeah, that match happens. A lot of shit happens that I really don't want to give away or go into detail because it doesn't make much sense, because it's not as fun talking about it as you witnessing it. That's sports anime. But also, maybe in case you still want to watch it and, get surprised by some of the developments yourself. But yeah, after the first set of that match, we switched to Nekoma's match against Sarukawa Tech, which is a bit of a weird choice since it kills the momentum from the Karasuno match. However, I do think the series focusing so much on Nekoma to begin with the specials and now in the tournament, will eventually pay off big time when both destined rival teams will eventually, inevitably, face each other. That match will for sure profit from all the time spent on both teams a great deal. And I'm so fucking hyped for that encounter. I cannot convey it properly with words. But yeah, really looking forward to that. And we got some interesting character development in that match as well. One of the key players of this, Yokoyama and Kenma, get highlighted, who are like these polar opposites. One is a hothead, relying too much on his guts and physical prowess, and the other being a nerd that relies a bit too much on his brain instead of putting more physical effort in. So even though they don't even remotely see eye to eye in the beginning, they start to learn from and improve each other once they start communicating and becoming friends. It's a neat character story. Also, Kenma having video games on his mind 24/7 and imagining game landscapes while doing annoying runs is a hard call out to me personally. He even imagines stepping on Mario Kart question marks and getting powered up so he can muster enough will to keep on running. And that is some peak imagination, I gotta say. So yeah, great stuff. And yeah, he compensates for his physical shortcomings with perfect technique, a keen eye, as well as great analyzing and strategizing skills. And to him, volleyball sometimes becomes more of a game of chess, where he sets up an elaborate trap, many plays in advance, to make a 100% score happen when it needs to. And yeah, that's, again, also a very interesting match. Their opponent is not as, as interesting, really. I mean, there's some interesting stuff to them too, but the important part here is Nekoma and, to learn more about those characters. And when we're gonna see them and Karasuno clash, it's gonna be great. They have been old rivals. There's like this talk about, always this talk about the battle at the dumpsters, the cats versus the crows. That's what happened a lot in the past, and that's gonna happen again. So, looking forward to that. But after that wraps up, we return to the match of Karasuno versus Inarizaki. And that's where the focus really becomes the Miya twins of Inarizaki. And their combination plays are terrifying perfectionism. The two twins are completely different. Again, in terms of character, we have that a lot in this show, like opposing characters that still learn to coexist and profit from each other and evolve against each other, basically. There's Atsumu, who has blonde dyed hair, is playful, and is a bit of a trickster and rude jackass. He knows that he is good and he lets other people know it. So basically like Elaina in Wandering Witch. He also expects everyone to score if he is on his A game because his sets are just that good. He immediately successfully copies and does his own version of Hinata's and Kageyama's quick attack, which leaves Karasuno completely flabbergasted. He also does this cool thing where before every serve he does, he stops the music from the support band with this badass gesture, where it's like, he looks straight forward and with like this steely gaze, and then he just raises his hands and shuts his fist, and the band stops playing, and he makes a serve. And it's always it's like, oh, here it comes! Oh shit! It's really good. And the other one, Osamu, has grayish hair, is more of a nice, reliable, straightforward dude who comes off as low-key and a bit unremarkable, but is also reliable when it comes to compensating for Atsumu's impulses. And it's not like they are the super harmonic duo. They are very competitive with each other and fight a lot, like brothers do. So they have an interesting dynamic inside and outside of matches. And them competing with each other so much naturally makes each of them getting better and better all the time. They are a super dangerous duo, and it shows in this match a lot. Like, they are a force to be reckoned with. They're super dangerous. Another thing I liked about them, after a surprise quick attack with reversed roll, Asumo says he and Osamu might be able to pull off a Skylab Hurricane now, which of course is a Captain Tsubasa reference, which I appreciated a lot, since I love that ridiculous move, which is also executed by twins in that show. So yes, know your genre, know your references. I loved it. The captain of Inarizaki, Kita, is also super interesting. He is like this barely emoting, no-nonsense guy who has this ice-cold, super serious presence that immediately takes over the court once he joins the match. Like, suddenly the whole team is on edge, like his team, because he watches their every move. And the first thing he does is berating one of the players for an earlier unnecessarily risky play that cost them a point. So you might think, oh, that guy is a shitty tyrant. But it turns out he's actually super nice. He's just a very straightforward guy who tells it how it is, gets the job done, and is incredibly reliable. There is this great scene where he gets angry for Atsumu wanting to overcome a cold by powering himself out during practice. And Kita is like, get the fuck out of here, cure your cold. And Atsumu is pissed because he is a man-child. But then he later goes to the locker room and Kita has bought some fruits and drinks for him and left the bag there with a get well note. And then we learn that Kita was never really part of the team's playing lineup until his third high school year, because he's good but not the super gifted player like the other guys are in terms of technique. But, like I said before, he is 100% reliable and always comes through, and the coach apparently realizes that he can bring the team back from panicking because he knows everyone's flaws and how to handle them, and thus he decides to make Kita the captain. And Kita then gets to pick up that number 1 jersey, and his robotic demeanor cracks for the first time, and he starts crying because this is actually something he wanted for a long time without realizing it, and it's fucking great. I was almost crying as well. And we just met the guy. And it's these little character moments that are the dark horse of Haikyu, besides the great matches themselves. Like, the show is so good at making us care about these characters who play a ball game that we can't help but get more invested in it. And that's how you do fucking sports anime. And in my opinion, Haikyu is still the gold standard in that regard. The show spends enough time to develop like a bunch of characters from the opposing teams. I think Nekoma is getting the most out of that approach, but a lot of the other teams profit from it as well. There's also some other cool shit. We learn about rotation strategies during the match, which is an important part of volleyball, but hasn't really been highlighted before that much, or at all. So we not only get character development, we always learn something new about the game as well, which is very much appreciated from my end, because of course I don't know everything about volleyball. I don't watch the sport, I only watch it in anime form. So there you go. It's nice to learn more about that sport and how it works. And on the Karasuno side of things, we get another great moment with Nishinoya and Kinoshita. The latter being a second hero who hasn't really been featured that much before the season. And he gets rotated in and wants to do this magic serve, but can't pull it off, and is sad that he couldn't contribute and have his hero moment. And then Nishinoya, who has been blasted with serves by one of the Miya twins since the beginning of the match and is starting to freeze instead of relying on his usual confidence, is on the receiving end of one of those serves again and about to freeze up again. But then Kinoshita, who has been practicing serves for Nishinoya a lot, they have practiced a lot together and know each other's moves, basically. So Kinoshita recognizes what Nishinoya has to do to receive that serve, so he yells out, "Nishinoya, move up." And without thinking really, Nishinoya actually gets kicked out of his funk by that and pulls off the receive. The team scores, and then Nishinoya turns around and points at Kinoshita, basically saying, "We did this together. This is because of you." And both are cheering, and it's so fucking good. It's such a great character moment. Again, Haikyu is full of that shit. And then, of course, at the end of this fourth season, Hinata gets a big moment, which this whole season has been building up to. And it's also fantastic. And I don't want to give it away, just in case. But the direction, the way it's staged, the callbacks, the music, in my opinion, it's all perfect. You couldn't have done it better. Just that it's interrupted by a commercial break stinger is a bit unfortunate. But I lost my fucking shit regardless, so don't worry. And what follows is one of the most intense exchanges in the series, and also shows why Hinata is one of the main characters of this show. It's amazing. It's like you have to see it to believe it. It's great. The finale of this match is this drag-out, merciless exchange of blows that only Haikyu knows how to deliver perfectly. At least I haven't seen something like that done as well in any other sports anime. The music goes into overdrive as well. I couldn't decide which of Hayashi's soundtracks I like the best, My Hero Academia or this one, but To the Top definitely makes a very strong case for Haikyu's score becoming my favorite of those two. It's too good. It's fantastic. This match feels like a finale, like the match against Shiro Torizawa, even though it's just the second one in this tournament. It's crazy. And yeah, that's basically it. I mean, yeah, of course, Karasuno wins. Of course, that's a spoiler, but that was kind of to be expected. I mean, they have lost before, but they're a better team now, and they wouldn't lose this match, but it comes down to how they win. And now Nekoma is next, which was quite a surprise to me, because judging from the build-up and the history between those two teams, I expected this to be the finale. So I assume, depending on the number of episodes we get, the entire fifth season could be the long-anticipated battle at the garbage dump between the crows and the cats. I honestly don't know who will take it, because I can see Haruichi Furudate, the creator of the manga, playing the long game here and Karasuno actually losing. Yeah, the stakes are higher than ever, and I can't fucking wait. Haikyu, man. Haikyu is hype. It's the epitome of hype. And I don't know what else to tell you guys besides go watch it. If you want to join me on this hype train, you can watch all seasons of Haikyu and the specials on, I believe, Crunchyroll in the US and Wakanim in Germany. I've said it before, and I'll say it again, Haikyu has quickly become the gold standard of sports anime, and this season hasn't done anything to sway my opinion on this. On the contrary, it has only reinforced it. If you have even the most remote interest in volleyball, or love great characters, or great animation, or great music, or all of the above, then you owe it to yourself to check out this amazing show. If you haven't done so yet, what are you doing listening to me gushing about it? Get on your couch and watch some fucking anime volleyball, bitches! And that is a wrap on the 107th episode of Anime Brain Freeze. All the music in our show is from the Double Dragon Neon soundtrack by the amazing Jack Kaufman. Please go to vrt.bandcamp.com and check out his awesome work. Our show is available on most of the popular podcast services, but it's always worth visiting animebrainfreeze.com for our review index and more. Leave us comments and questions on YouTube, follow us on Twitter at AnyBrainFreeze, or send an email to animebrainfreeze@gmail.com. We would love to read your feedback. Thanks for tuning in, we hope you had a good time, and please join us again on our next episode. Macht's gut,
So long, everybody.
Next time on Anime Brain Freeze!
Your everyday school life with a not-so-secret betrayal.
And we steal the world, kiss the demon, and don't give a damn.